one of our mentors said to us, you got to freestyle at a framework. You can't freestyle unless you've got the framework.
Yeah.
And people try to go out and freestyle and it just ends up being a bit chaotic. When you actually then ask them to communicate to parents, they're sort of not really sure.
Yeah.
So you've got to start with those frameworks, which is not expected. That's a developed skill set that you learn for all the different areas and populations. And then you sort of put your own spin on things, put your own personality, and you bring those natural skills in to that framework.
Yeah.
And you become your own therapist.
Yeah.
And that's sort of your goal with your skill set, where you want to be. So you need the natural and you need the developed.
We are child development obsessed, business besties and mums. And we're here to spill all our secrets.
We have a combined 30 years experience working with children, and each episode we will bring you up-to-date research and evidence-based strategies to set your children up to thrive.
I'm Lizzie Dawson, Australian exercise physiologist.
I'm Emily Mackey, Australian speech pathologist.
And this is the Move, Talk, Thrive podcast. Today we're going to talk about what skill set you need to develop to work with children.
Or have. We have a couple of things that we wanted to talk about that we think are skills that you need to develop.
Yeah.
And then also, what are the skills that come naturally to you as a paediatric therapist? So either speech therapist or EP or broader allied health professional.
Absolutely. And I always say to my exercise physiologists that come and work with me is to, work to their natural style. And I think this kind of aligns to that. But obviously there are some skills that we naturally need to have or people tend to have to work with children because it's not for everyone.
No, absolutely not. And I think that's the whole point of uni, isn't it? That you do all your different placements and they make you do adult and pediatric placements. And then you sort of get a feel for both populations and you think, do I like this? Do I not? I remember I always knew I wanted to be a pediatric therapist. I loved kids. I had lots of kids around me growing up and kids were what inspired me to become a speechy. And I remember dreading my adult placements just because I just thought, this is going to be boring. But I actually ended up really liking my adult placements.
Yeah.
And then I felt a little bit confused after my placements because I thought my plan was pediatrics, but I really enjoyed that adult placement. But then I came back and thought, no, originally I liked kids. That was what motivated me. So I'll stick with kids. But then I ended up doing a mixed caseload job anyway. In my second position, I had kids as outpatients and then I did adults on the wards, and we did swallowing assessments, a little bit of communication. I had a few babies on the wards, the day they were born, the day after they were born, we were working on breastfeeding.
Oh, yeah.
But I actually found in that job I didn't mind the adults because it gave me a break from the pediatrics sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think it was more the break that I liked rather than sticking with adults full time. What about you, Lizzie?
Well, I mean, I feel like just on that, I feel like there's no doubt that working with kids requires a certain amount of energy. And I think it's more energy than that of adults. But at the same time, for me, I just get so much energy from working with kids because it's such a positive experience. But I didn't know I wanted to work with kids. I kind of fell into it. And I really liked the, older population because I just really liked them. They were really sweet and I feel like I learned so much from them. But it was that work that really motivated me to work with kids. And then when I went and worked with kids, it kind of shocked me that I was good with them. I mean, when I think about it now and reflect on it, I'm quite playful. I'm quite fun. I have always been good with kids. So any babies or little kids around me, I've been good with them. But I guess it's not skills that I worked on. So I didn't really know. And because I hadn't really used them in a working capacity, I wasn't really aware of it. But it's definitely, I think, something that in reflection kind of comes quite easily to me. But I've got teaching in my blood. My mum was a teacher. My uncle, my grandfather, all teachers. So I
Do you
guess
do pediatric placements in your EP studies?
we didn't know.
Oh,
so they
wow.
do now, but it's still quite hard to get. But yeah, no.
Is that because EPs don't usually work with pediatrics?
Well, there's more and more now because of NDIS, so there's quite a few now. But traditionally, no. When I came out, it was like Medicare, work cover, and DVA.
And just what's DVA?
And then veterans. Yeah. And then I worked in another private practice, which was like privately paying weight management sort of clients.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if we're talking about what would make someone a good pediatric therapist,
Yeah.
I think that there are things that you can't teach
Yeah.
and that there's things that you can teach. And I feel
Absolutely.
like uni and academic studies and most people come out focusing on the things that you can teach,
Yeah.
but a lot of those natural skills aren't really acknowledged. So I'd love to talk about them today
Yeah.
because honestly, if someone is to come to us for a placement or come into a job interview with us or even do observations, we know straight away like some characteristics. If you're bubbly,
Yeah.
expressive,
Playful.
if you laugh a lot. I don't know how it's to quantify that, but laughing, you have to
Yeah.
laugh easily, be able to make jokes or fun of yourself like in a silly way.
Yeah.
Kids love that
Yeah.
sort of laughter.
Yeah.
Laughter
That
is good medicine.
playful- Yeah, playful side, I think. And probably not take things too seriously. Like be happy to make different voices and
Yeah,
move
intonation.
like animals,
Yeah. And that's really something you can't teach. You have to be naturally playful.
Yeah, and warm and nurturing, I think. Like I think when I meet people and they're just personable and warm and maybe not necessarily extroverted,
No.
but just that kind of warm, playful side. I don't know how to describe
I
it.
know it's hard
in
to
other way.
quantify, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think maybe you smile easily or you smile a lot might be a
Yeah.
way to sort of reflect it.
Yeah.
I feel like in the past, if we've had students at Speak About and they have said, I want to work with adults, something that we have to sort of work on them with is your facial expressions.
Yeah.
And we're saying to them you have to have an open posture and facial expression and just smiling. Even if you don't feel like it, smile.
Yes.
I don't know if that's
right.
I feel like that's a very pediatric skill
Yeah.
that
The
naturally
facials.
comes to people.
It's expressive. And, particularly when you're working with kids with developmental delays because, they read all the languages.
Because they can't understand the words sometimes,
Yeah.
but the gestures and the body language of the facial expression is so
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
And that's what we teach in the PLA because we're teaching children with language difficulties.
Yes.
So we're using all of those to cue a child in on how to learn.
Yeah.
And that's those cues. We don't want them to need those cues down the track, but it just helps them to understand.
Toolkit.
Yeah. That's your toolkit. Yes.
Yeah. I think they also, I like what I find, and I find that we always talk about at Kids Heart Pilates and I guess the general theme is that we're all curious. We're all wanting to problem solve and because it's not a one size fits all. It's not like, they've got diabetes and their blood sugar is this and they need to be doing this and this. It's, they're responding in this way and their behavior's doing this. This could be this. Why would they not like this? And you're really kind of being curious about the intricacies that is development and open to learning and open to talking. It's like this, collaboration. I think that's really crucial in working with kids because we all need to come together to get the best outcomes for kids. So you need to be curious. You need to be open to learn from other professionals. Think about things in different ways. Be creative. I think creativity is a
Creativity is a big one. I think creativity is huge.
Yeah.
but it is a bit of a mindset shift. This is something that I've experienced personally because I always thought creativity meant you needed to be able to draw really well or paint really well. And I struggle to draw stick figures. I mean, it's a laughing joke in my team that I can't even write properly. Like my handwriting is so messy. Everyone's like, what is that? And often in meetings, I have written something down and I'm saying, hang on, wait, everyone, I can't read my own handwriting.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was like, I'm not creative. And I've said that about myself for so many years.
Yeah.
But then I look at what I have done with the business and with my life. And then everyone kept saying to me, you are creative.
Yeah.
Look at what you're constantly doing. And I think around that era of creativity, it required a bit of a mindset shift for me.
Yeah.
Because creativity is not just picking up a pencil and drawing or being able to paint. It's actually it's a mindset of how you look at things. And so you innovate with your time, your energy, your planning, how you hold yourself, seeing things that aren't there. That's creativity. And then bringing that to life. This podcast is an example.
Exactly. I was going to say it's about being able to look at things a different way.
Yes. Or to see things, look at it a different way and see it how it's not even created yet.
Yeah.
See the better, like the potential in it, which is a child.
Yeah.
But, you know, whatever it is, your projects, your tasks, and going, how can I do this better? Or how can we even solve a problem here?
Yeah.
How can we fill this gap?
Yeah.
That's
I think
creativity.
there's a big element of problem solving.
Yes.
Because it's not just we know that the kid needs to move or that the child needs to move. It's, okay, we've got, you know, these complexities here. How can we creatively get them to move?
Yes.
Like, how can we think outside the box?
Yeah.
And I think that's, you know, one of those natural things. You go, like, I really like problem solving. So I'm like, okay, this is not working. What could we do here?
That you need to do that in behavioral management so much.
So much.
Yeah. And
absolutely. And be okay with, you know, one option not working and then trying a different option. So being okay with the unexpected, being able to, like, being agile in your delivery of therapy.
being able to change the way you say something if a child's not getting it, or even a parent's not fully understanding them, being able to change the way that you've given that information to make it more understandable for them.
Yeah.
So that's creativity. It's a bit of flexibility, isn't it, as well? And then it's having that confidence. So having the confidence around children.
Massive.
Like we talked about in a few different episodes, you know, having confidence with parents and things. I think that you don't necessarily naturally have that, but definitely confidence with children.
Yeah.
And so I generally find people who have been around children a lot of their life or been involved with jobs with children, they generally tend to have that a bit more.
Yeah.
And that's a natural disposition.
Yeah, I think like being comfortable and confident around children. So being able to talk to them. And some people, like, it seems, particularly for us who work with kids, it kind of seems like a no-brainer. Like, of course you're going to be comfortable. But some people are literally not comfortable around kids.
And that's fine. They're probably called to adults, and that's fine.
Absolutely.
I feel like I would not be great long-term with adults because I would just be too bouncy.
Yeah.
And I'd really have to shut down my personality and shut down myself working with adults because they need it a bit quieter or not, like, you know, sometimes adults think if you put too much intonation in, you're patronizing them.
Yeah.
Or older people, you know, and I feel like, I would really struggle with that. So that's okay. Like if you're not like that with pediatrics, that's fine.
Yeah.
But it's knowing that this is the natural skill set that you should have, because otherwise these things don't drain you. If you're constantly having to feel like you have to be bubbly, have to be energetic, even being optimistic, positive, nurturing, playful, creative, curious, if you're not naturally those things, that will be incredibly draining for you. And that is also then a recipe for burnout.
Yeah.
So a lot of these things that we're talking about, they're not actually clinically related. We haven't said one technical thing yet.
I swear to God, I talk about that all the time, how the clinical is secondary. And that, I think that's both with adults and peds. Like, I think clinical, and I think it's really hard for new guys coming out because they're like, right, want to, you know, prove that I know what I'm talking about here. But I want them to be able to connect and you know,
that's
show
the
that
basics.
Natural style.
That's the foundations. If they don't have these skills, if you don't have these sorts of skills that come naturally to you, then the clinical skills, it's great. You could tell us all the research about fixing a stutter or helping a child jump, but if you don't have these natural tendencies and characteristics, that connection won't be there to develop that rapport to help that child long term.
Yeah.
And so most new grads are so wound up about the clinical skills, which is understandable. That's what uni are teaching you. That's what you're focusing on. However, you can learn those clinical skills. If you're in a great workplace, a great environment that's nurturing, you will learn. What we can't teach you is the basic 101
What's the
of
natural
being a health professional,
Yeah.
which is all these natural tendencies.
Yeah.
And so thinking about your natural skill set, understanding yourself, understanding who you are, and having that awareness of your strengths
Yeah.
is also something you can use to help determine what you do with your career as an EP or a speechy or a health professional.
And I didn't actually think about it.
No, neither did
I
I.
walked in with a group of kids and I was just curious and playful, and I got down on the floor with them, and
No one had to teach you. No one had to say to you, get down on the floor, get down to their level.
I had that,
Yes.
so it might not be something that you're even aware that you've got, but if you walk into a room full of kids, I can tell you'll figure it out pretty quickly.
Yeah, do that. If you're not sure, do that. You'll either find it super stressful and chaotic and too much, or you'll just be like, I'm in my element.
Yeah.
And that's, again, like that's why placement's so good. But even lining up observations,
Yeah.
like we have lots of students coming through speak about just doing like 2 hours of observations. And it's like, how do you greet that child?
Yeah.
You're not the speechy, you're just observing, but still, how are you interacting? How comfortable do you feel?
Tell straight away.
Yeah. And so if you're feeling lost or in the dark, just do these things. Put yourself in a preschool, put yourself in a clinic, or get some family members around you and see what you prefer.
Yeah.
Because it's a big deal.
Absolutely. Because it's costly, I think, in more ways than one if you're not aligned to that type of work and you're trying to do it. But I generally think if someone's really passionate about working with kids, they'll have been around children and they'll know that they like working with kids. I knew I liked kids. I just didn't think about working with them. But that might also be because exercise physiologists at that time did not work with kids. So it was not kind of an option.
It's great to see how your profession has evolved.
Yeah.
Even in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Last 15 years.
Well, I mean, that's how my whole course came about, was because I was trying to recruit people to scale Kids Heart Pilates, but no one knew how to work with kids. So I was like, okay, I just, everything from like major brain dump and put it all out. And then that was my onboarding. And it was all about the working with kids
They
stuff.
should make that as a core module in the course. That's weird. That's not a part of
it. There may be more now. I know UQ does some, they've got some subjects around it, but still not massive. But I was even talking to some OTs at the Allied Health Awards, and they were like, we don't do anything with peds. Yeah. In their course subjects. Yeah.
Wow.
So it must be an elective.
And then you'd have to do professional development after that. If you're an OT, we'd love to hear what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just what I was told.
Yeah.
Which I was shocked about, because I was like, oh, so many OTs work with kids.
They do. Yes.
Yeah. So, and we need more.
We do. We need more. The unis really, shout out to the unis. They need to add pediatrics into their courses.
Yeah.
Because that is a big component with speech pathology. Like, we have our pediatric units and we have our adult units.
Yeah.
We cover all the different things with adults and all the different things with pediatrics.
So you do both.
It's not in great depth.
Yeah.
Because you can't cover everything to the level that you need to because you've got you don't have enough time. But yeah, for the most part, we cover all of it. Yeah. I just cringed every time we had adults, but I don't like, in terms of that's my natural disposition. I was like, oh, but it was really good to learn it and be exposed to that, to make the educated choice. And then I did end up in a job which was adults. So, you never know where you're going to end up and what you're going to do. So you got to stay open.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if we're looking at those would be our natural skills.
Yeah.
What would we say are the skills that you develop the skill set you develop in working with children?
I think engaging kids is a big one.
Learning how to engage them creatively, like we were saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that next level of engagement.
Yeah.
Doing intentionally.
And that managing behavior.
Learning how to be that calm in the chaos, but to do it intentionally and constructively, even from an evidence-based perspective of what strategies are helpful. That's something you learn over time. You're not expected, a new grad's not expected to walk in with a really complex child in their first couple of months or even first day and go, oh, I know how to engage you at the level that has all the, at that deep level.
Yeah. And I think you've got to, a skill that you've really got to develop is information gathering.
Yeah.
Like being able to gather all the information to set yourself up.
And then process the information in a way that then you can implement it. You know, when you just get so much theory and you're like, you kind of get paralyzed. Yeah. Because you're like, where do I even start? How do I even start actioning this?
Yeah.
But that's a skill in itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
Learning how to read the research, apply the research, implement it, and then like reevaluate it. I remember I had to do that with speech sound kids.
Yeah. And even like improvise with it. Like I think when you know the theory, put it into like I was talking in another episode about the sword fighting, being able to put it into practice in innovative ways. So being creative, and that
just happens over time with experience as you see more children.
Yeah.
And you understand different families and different children, and you see different patterns and trends with different conditions and populations. You can start to get an understanding of that. So that is something that's developed. Yeah. I often think new grads come into job interviews and they think they have to have that all down pat. Yeah. And I think, no, I say to them, no, like that is what we can teach you. Yeah. You don't need to be good with that from the start. Yeah. We don't expect that. Yeah. We don't expect that. How can we expect that? Yeah. That comes with experience.
Yeah, absolutely. When I've been training my new EPs recently, one thing that I've been able to do is teach the class, identify a child that's struggling, engage that child, tell the educator what's going on all at the same time. And I think that's a real skill. But the first step in that skill is knowing my script and knowing my exercise prescriptions. And that's just been developed over time. And I think, I've taken classes with laryngitis, so I haven't been able to use my voice. I've taken classes while being pregnant, so I haven't been able to demonstrate. I've taken classes with a broken elbow. And so I've developed ways of teaching children and engaging children with different strategies, with demonstrating, with describing things, because I'm not able to demonstrate it. And then I think once you've got that nailed, then you're able to troubleshoot a scenario.
That is actually like a great point. That's a great point. You can't work with your children. I actually think that's a great mindset to have. To think, if I had no voice, how would I do what I'm doing? It really pushes you and your mindset to think creatively. And obviously if you can do that before the situation happens, like you were in the situation and you're like, I'm pregnant.
This is and when I had laryngitis, it was back in the day when people just went to work when they were still sick, and I'm like, oh well, I've got to go and do it, and I'm like, I have no voice, and so I was like, okay, head, shoulders.
You're tapping your head, you're tapping your shoulders. Yes.
Yeah. But then I know that I can call on that. It's a great way to engage kids is to actually stop using your voice.
Yeah, they say that the whisper is more powerful than the yell. You always come down to a little kid and you say, I want to tell you a secret, and they'll immediately stop what they're doing to listen. It's like the power in that whisper.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was talking to some mentees last week and we were talking about engagement. I said, I want you to try and prescribe your exercises in different ways. So do it without using any verbal cues, and then do it without demonstrating. And that's how you start to, develop those skill sets a little bit better. And then you have loads of different ways to do the same thing. And I think when you start to develop those skills and brush those skills up to a fine art, then you can, troubleshoot the little Johnny that is struggling with the sensory overload, and call him. The other week I was teaching a class and there was a child with more complex needs quite clearly, and I called him up and I said, come and do it next to me, be my helper. And he came and he just got so involved. The teacher was like, oh my gosh, he's doing this. But I was able to not lose the other children in that just because of that experience, and it's just developing those skills over the last 14, 15 years of perfecting my cueing and my prescription script, I guess. But that's the first skill. So that's kind of the first thing that I've got practitioners that have got the warmth, they've got the
yes, you have
nurturing,
to have those,
they've got those natural stuff that we were talking about. And now I'm like, okay, let's get your scripting, let's get your engagement through different avenues of prescribing exercises, and then we can go to the educating part, and then we can go to the troubleshooting behaviours in a group environment, or, you know.
Yeah, that's all learnt over time and with a mentor.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, you can, there's really no way to shortcut your progress, but if you need to go faster, you go with a mentor.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone who's been there and done that with you before.
Yeah.
And really, I love what you're saying, because like from a speech pathology point of view, you're incorporating all of your senses.
Yes.
And using that multimodal method of teaching, which we know that that's how to engage children and how to if you can bring you learning through all of the senses into whatever you're teaching your child, you're going to help engage them. Exactly. You're going to help them learn. And so we do that with a lot of our literacy programs, because a lot of people think, you know, you're just sitting at the desk writing or reading, how boring, but you really are able to engage all of those senses. And with our language therapy as well, we do that.
Yeah. And how do you engage the senses?
By moving, you know, volume, voice, listening, hearing, seeing, touching. Yeah. Smelling is the hardest. With some goals we can, but yes. Yeah. You can even use your imagination. We're like, what does this smell like in your mind? And that's a goal even for children themselves as well, to use their imagination for something that's not there. To create that sense of what something might smell like. Yeah.
I was running a course a little while ago, and we were talking about the sensory system and how to engage all of the senses during movement prescription. And one person said they put lavender oil in Play-Doh.
Oh, yeah, love it. Yes.
Great idea.
I've seen that on Pinterest.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
And like so calming and nice.
The lavender oil, I think, has all these benefits.
Oh, yeah.
Someone told me the other day the lavender oil is great to keep away mozzies.
Yeah,
so you wipe it around your doors, your door frames, and you don't have mozzies flying. I was like, gold.
I put a little spot of lavender oil, and this is not medical advice, so
I know this is
like this. But I put like a little dab if the boys have got an itchy bite.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to try that.
I don't know whether it actually works.
Oil at home.
But I go, do you want some
do you have to dilute it, or you just put it straight on the skin?
I think you're supposed to, but I literally just put my finger on the top of the bottle.
Yeah.
So I'm not getting much. And I think it's actually more of a psychological response from the kids, because I'm like, do you want some cream? And they're like, yes, please.
Kids love
cream,
don't they?
And I put it on. And, the scent, I think, is calming.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what
I'm going to try that with the girls next time.
Yeah.
But kids are always obsessed with cream.
Yeah. Well, I also put a couple of drops of lavender oil in the bath.
Yeah, I love it. Just to calm me. There you go. That's another behavioural strategy which you could easily recommend to parents to do. Lavender essential oil, so easy to get your hands on.
Or a drop on the bottom of the shower, and then it all like steams up.
I'm going to do that.
I do peppermint for myself in the morning, and I put it on the peppermint and grapefruit. Really, really nice combination.
I didn't even know you could get grapefruit as a essential oil.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And then you just do a drop of each in the bottom of the shower, and then it just floats up, and it's really nice.
I will have to try that.
Yeah. I got that from Lorraine Murphy, actually.
Oh.
Like a little self-help.
Yeah. Love it.
Energy management thing. But it is really nice.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think coming back to the scripting with the activities and goals. So that is why we've created our programs. So I have the PLA, the Preschool Language Accelerator. And you have, what's your course called?
Well, I've got a few. I've got the Move Mentor for educators. I've got Knowledge Corner for allied health professionals.
Yeah, and so what we've found is that the script is not meant to be the end point, but you have to have that foundation.
Yeah.
And have to understand the basics.
Yeah.
And then once you've got that framework in your head, then you can add on your spin and different ways that you might do something, but you can't add your spin onto something you don't even know how to do.
Yes.
So our programs really provide those, like you said, scripting and a framework for how you would work through language goals and movement goals and develop those technical competencies and clinical skills, which is, you know, how to run a session, how to run classes, how to manage the basics of behavior, how to understand the research. We have done that for people, put that in.
And that's not skills they need to have before starting, because this comes with, it's about taking those scripts and using them in real time.
That's a skill in itself.
Yes. And practicing over and over until it is ingrained.
Yes.
And you've got a few different ways to do it.
Yes.
And that is something that is acquired over time. It's experience. So it's not, I'm not expecting people that apply for my pediatric positions to have those scripts.
No. Oh, absolutely not.
They do my course.
Yes.
And then we develop their own script over time.
Yeah. And we have that for most clinical areas, or pretty much for all of the clinical areas that speak about as well. So I've publicly released the PLA.
Yep.
That's preschool language because that was my passion. It is my passion right now.
Yeah.
But we have those sort of systems for every area at Speak About. I just haven't released them publicly, like for speech sounds, different approaches for school age language. And people do ask me, can you do one for school age language? Like, we do have one. Yeah. It's just not polished and refined, you know, with videos and as a training course. Yeah. But that is sort of what we've found worked. One of our mentors said to us, you got to freestyle in a framework. So do you remember that?
No.
I remember freestyle in a framework because you can't freestyle unless you've got the framework.
Yeah.
And people try to go out and freestyle and it just ends up being a bit chaotic. Yeah. And when you actually then ask them to communicate to parents, they're sort of not really sure.
Yeah.
So you've got to start with those frameworks, which is not expected. That's a developed skill set that you learn for all the different areas and populations. And then you sort of put your own spin on things, put your own personality, and you bring those natural skills in to that framework. Yeah. And you become your own therapist. Yeah. And that's sort of your goal with your skill set, where you want to be. So you need the natural and you need the developed.
Yeah. And I think being aware of your natural.
Yes.
You know, and
will help guide you to what your job or career might look like.
Yeah, if it's right for you. And then not to be too stressed, because you'll develop these other skills and it takes time and experience, and that's what people like us are here to help people with, like in terms of our businesses. Like my expectation is not that they've got those, it's that we will help them develop them.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you are thinking, what population should I work with? Hopefully this has given you a lot of food for thought. Think about yourself, ask people around you, you know, what would you say I am? And look at how you respond to situations. And like we said, chuck yourself into a room full of kids and see how you go. If in doubt, put yourself in a situation where you have lots of kids, or vice versa, take yourself off to an elderly group. You would probably know more about that than I do. A nursing home. Yeah. Take yourself to a nursing home and just see what lights you up. What is a naturally energizing for you? You want to walk away from the end of your days feeling energized, not drained. Mm-hmm. And you want to walk away feeling motivated and pumped up in life, really, feeling positive about what you're doing and having that positive outlook. Bear in mind, if you do, you know, so I was more drawn to pediatrics. I did then do adults. It's not the end of the world. No. You can change and shift and grow. And just because you choose pediatrics or adults at the start of your journey doesn't mean that's where you've got to stay.
Absolutely.
But it is having that awareness, being intentional of what you want to do with your career, what you want to do with your life, what you want to do being a professional, and then also being aware of what you need. What is required of you? You know, you don't need to have all the answers straight away.
No.
What can you learn? What are those developed skills? Yeah. And just having that confidence in being in that place and learning and growing.
Absolutely.
So if you've been listening to this and you're really interested in checking out our courses and looking at how you can develop those technical skills and those developed skills, check out the show notes below. We have Lizzie's courses linked, my course, the PLA. Also, that if you look at our socials, you'll be able to see little screenshots into our courses and also what's involved and different members and all of that sort of community there as well. We love to invite you in. If you're interested, send us a DM. We'd love to get you started on that learning journey and developing your technical skills.